Welcome back, and in today's video we are going to be continuing my college football deep dive series. Now if you guys haven't been keeping up, I highly recommend going to check out the other four we have done, as we are going from number 1 to my number 25 team in the country entering the 2025 college football season. And today we are at the number 5 team, and that is the Oregon Ducks. Now for a lot of people this is going to be really high, but I think Dan Lanning and this coaching staff has earned the benefit of the doubt. They've got an incredible recruiting class coming in, a really good transfer class, and I'm excited to look deeper into this Ducks team and look at what could get them back to the Big Ten championship game for the second time in the last 2 years. But if you guys are new to the channel, consider hitting that like and subscribe button. And if you want more college football deep dive content from me, be sure to hit the link down in the Patreon. For just $5, you guys can make a one-time purchase and get all of my deep dive guide for the Oregon Ducks. That will include all player notes, transfer notes, a closer look at the schedule, and much more. So if you guys do want to get more information on this Ducks team, maybe talk about some things that we didn't hit on in this video, I highly recommend going to check that out. Comment down below, who do you guys think is going to be the number 6 team in the top 25? But guys, I don't want to waste another second. I have been dying to get this video out because Oregon is one of my favorite teams to talk about. I think they have done an incredible job of turning this program around. So let's take a look at the moves that the Ducks made this off season. Starting off with the coaching staff. They didn't make any big moves in the coaching room. Dan Lanning, the offensive coordinator Will Stein, and the defensive coordinator Tosh Lupoi, they are all coming back for another year. And if you're an Oregon fan, that's really exciting. And then at the quarterback position, I'm going to say it's downgraded. You lost Dylan Gabriel. He was a Heisman finalist. You lost Jaron Sagopulutule. I butchered that name. I do apologize. He transfers out to Cal, I believe. And you bring in Akili Smith, an interesting freshman, but not a guy that is going to elevate this room, not a guy that will probably see the field at all this year. So it is a downgraded quarterback room for Oregon in that regard. At the running back room, though, I am going to say upgraded. I thought Jordan James was fine for Oregon last year. However, I did find him to be one of the more overrated backs in the country. He ends up going, I believe, in the 5th or 6th round. But they bring in Mekhi Hughes, the number 1 running back in the transfer portal. I think he's a big upgrade over Jordan James, so I haven't upgraded there. In terms of the wide receiver room, I have to say downgraded. You lost Kez Johnson, one of the most productive receivers in the country over the last couple of seasons. You lost Trayshawn Holden, a rotational starter for this team. Ryan Pelham, he hits the transfer portal. But I think the big one is losing Evan Stewart. We'll talk about that more in the receiving breakdown, but he's likely going to be out for most of the 2025 season, if not the whole year. I think he was very key to what they wanted to do, and I genuinely thought about moving them down in the power rankings because of it. But you add the number 1 receiver in the high school ranks into Corian Moore. That is a massive pickup, and he is a special talent. We'll break him down. You got Malik Benson, the transfer from Florida State, an interesting player there, and then you get Cooper Perry as well. In the tight end room, you lose Terrence Ferguson. He goes to the Los Angeles Rams, and you lose Patrick Herbert. You bring in Jamari Johnson. It is a downgraded room because Ferguson was so important, but in a weird way, I think Jamari Johnson can help this team a little bit more than Terrence Ferguson did because I love what he brings as a blocker. So it is still downgraded, but definitely an interesting one. Moving along here, the offensive line, I'm actually going to put this at a neutral. This was a really tough one. I love the moves that this team made on the offensive line, though. You lose Josh Connerly. He goes in the 1st round to the Washington Commanders. You lose Ajani Cornelius. You lose Marcus Harper, George Silva, and Shaq McCroy. But look at the additions. Isaiah World is a phenomenal left tackle. You pick him up from Nevada, the number 2 overall player in the transfer portal. An incredible pickup for Oregon there. I think he can be just as good, maybe better than Josh Connerly was last year. Alex Harkey, I think, is an upgrade over Ajani Cornelius. I liked what he showed at Texas State. You bring in Emmanuel Pregnon out of USC. Really fun offensive lineman there. I think that's an upgrade over Marcus Harper. And then you bring in 4 freshmen, Zaire Addison, Dimitri Manning, Douglas Utu, and Zach Stakowski. 4 solid, highly recruited freshmen that maybe they see the field, maybe they don't. But the addition of World, Harkey, and Pregnant, I think are better than the 3 guys in Cornelius, Connerly, and Harper. So I'm going to say neutral. I don't think they upgraded, but I don't think they downgraded either. In the edge room, however, I do think they downgraded. You lose Jordan Birch, who is a really important piece for this team. Jaden Moore, Amarian Winston, and Jackson Jones, they all hit the portal. You bring in Matthew Johnson and Nasir Wyatt, 2 true freshmen, but likely guys that could potentially end up on the red shirt. On the interior of the defensive line, again, gonna say downgraded. Derek Harmon was maybe this team's best individual player last year. He goes to the NFL. Jamari Caldwell, great plug run stuffer for this team. Mykiel Gardner goes. You bring in Bear Alexander, very controversial player in the college football landscape. I think he's a fine player, but I don't think he's on the caliber of a Derek Harmon or a Jamari Caldwell. So I'm going to say downgraded. Same thing with the linebacker room. You lose Jeffrey Bassa. He goes to Kansas City. Gavin Nix, you bring in another true freshman. I don't think that is going to really impact it. And then the secondary, I think, might be the biggest upgrade for this Oregon team. I love the moves that this team made. In the cornerback room, you lose Jabbar Muhammad, who I don't think went drafted. I think that was ridiculous. I thought he was definitely a draftable player. But other than that, Dante Manning, Nico Reed, Roderick Pleasant, Kamari Terrell, not really big rotational guys, but you bring in Jaden Kennedy, who's probably going to start in the nickel for this team from Ole Miss. He was really productive last year. Theron Johnson, really, really good player out of Northwestern. Really loved his game. Brandon Finney, Dorian Brew, and then Naeem Offord, who was awesome. One of the best true freshman corners coming out. They made really good moves. I think this cornerback room is ultimately going to be slightly upgraded from where it was last year. And then the safety room. You lose Kobe Savage, Brandon, and Tysheem Johnson, as well as Tyler Turner, but you bring in the biggest addition in the portal outside of maybe Isaiah World and Dylan Thieneman, one of the most productive safeties in college football over the last 2 years. Purdue had a fire sale. They fired their coach. Tons of players left that team. Thieneman comes to Oregon and I think instantly makes this group better. They could have lost any number of players, but adding Thieneman immediately makes it upgraded. And then they also bring in Trey McNutt, a true freshman. So Oregon was busy this offseason. They really overhauled the secondary, lost a lot of guys to the NFL. I believe they had 10 guys drafted. So this team does have a lot of holes to fill. But let's look at this coaching staff and really take a closer look at who is going to be developing some of these young guys. And we've got to start with Dan Lanning. The reason why Oregon is at number 5 and not a little bit lower, where maybe their talent level might say that they are, especially with some of the injuries and unprovenness at quarterback, which we'll get to, I think it's Dan Lanning. Dan Lanning, to me, over the last few seasons, has proven that he can really work with these young players. I mean, look at what he did with Bo Nix. Look at what he did with Dylan Gabriel last year. Now he's got Dante Moore. He's one of the best coaches in college football for a reason, and I think he is going to be for a long time. He is such a good player developer. He relates to his players. You see it in the recruiting videos and all the things. He just has a different type of relationship, whether it be the youthful energy that Lanning brings. He is just a really, really, I think he's a fun coach to play for, and he's a guy that has recruited incredibly well. I think he's relatable to players, and he has developed really, really high-level football players. Oregon was not in a great spot before Dan Lanning came to town. He has come in. This team won the Big Ten, which I don't think anybody thought they were going to be able to do last year, coming to a new conference that was said to be more physical, and he has met the call. I also think he's just a really smart football coach. He is very aggressive. He loves to, Tosh Lapoy's kind of listed as the defensive coordinator, but I think Dan Lanning is really the guy calling the shots for this defense. His former defensive coordinator at Georgia background, and it shows up with this Oregon team. They use a lot of different disguise coverages. They love to bring different blitz looks. They move guys all around the defense. They're kind of a positionless defense, if you will. You saw it with Tuioti last year, dropping back into coverage and rushing the passer. Like, they're aggressive, they're positionless, they play fast, they're physical, and he also does that with the offense. I think, the fourth down calls. Dan Lanning's one of the best, smartest coaches in college football, and I think he has the potential to get this team over the hump yet again. It might not look like the most talented roster, but he's proven time and time again that he is a great player developer. He can get the most out of these players, and I absolutely love that about Dan Lanning. If we move over to Tosh Lupoi, though, we talked about the defensive system. That's kind of what Oregon is going to run. They want to play physical. They want to play a very aggressive style of defense, if you will, and it has worked. I mean, if you look at where the Oregon defense was before Lanning and Lupoi came into Oregon, or Lupoi, excuse me, this defense, I want to say they ranked around 87th nationally in scoring defense. I believe they were all the way up to 8th this past year. Their defense has gotten better each and every year. They're landing big-time recruits on defense, and they have been that aggressive style. The linebackers, they can blitz, they can drop into coverage. They love to bring safeties down into the box that can, give you a little bit in the run defense, but I think they can also drop into coverage. They're rangy, they're physical, they play a lot of press, they love to get into wide receivers, make life difficult, and they're one of the most aggressive and fun defenses to watch in college football. They also like to bring different pressure sets, whether it be on stunts or, there were a lot of those looks. I think Uiagalelei and Tuioti, they got really good looks last year from different blitz looks, and they had free releases. Like, this defense is going to be really good again, and I feel really comfortable saying that. As for Will Stein, I think he is another just really good offensive mind in football that if things go well this year, I think Will Stein has a very high chance of being poached and being the next head coach for a program somewhere, because this offense has been incredible. They run a very pro-style offense, a lot of RPOs, a lot of different formations. They played a lot of 12 personnel last year with both Ferguson and Sadiq, or Ferguson and Herbert. Like, he loves to run multiple tight end sets. They love to attack the ball deep, a lot of deep shots, a lot of vertical posts, things of that nature. But I love the way that he kind of builds the offense around the quarterback. They had a completely different look this past season from where they were with Bo Nix, just based on limitation. They still want to mix in that deep ball, but I absolutely love the marriage that he has kind of built with this Oregon team of the run and the pass. You even go back to the Bo Nix teams. Bucky Irving, I want to say, was an 1,000-yard rusher on that team. They love to mix things up offensively. They've got a ton of different looks. And I think, like I said, if things go well this year for Oregon and they continue to be towards the top of the college football world, I think Will Stein will be a head coach somewhere in the next couple of seasons. I think he is a up-and-coming offensive mind in the sport, and I think Oregon's lucky to have him back for another year. But this is a really good coaching staff. They're young, but they have a very unique style. They relate to players, and players are looking at what Lanning is building in Oregon. Granted, the NIL money is definitely helping, but they are building something here in Eugene that I think is really, really unique, really special, and they look like they could be a perennial contender in the Big Ten for a long time. So I love this coaching staff. I think it's one of the best in the country, and I'm excited to see what they can do this year. But I do think this is the biggest question mark, or the biggest, wild card year for this coaching staff, because I think the quarterback room is definitely up in. It's going to be interesting to see kind of what happens this year. Dante Moore is coming into Oregon, and I think he's one of the most polarizing quarterbacks in the country. I see a lot of people expecting him to go out and be a Heisman finalist, and I see a lot of people just thinking that Oregon could fall off completely, and they might be ranked around 19, 20 in the final rankings. I kind of think it'll be somewhere in the middle. We'll get to that later. I still think very highly of this Oregon team. But I do want to pump the brakes a little bit on Dante Moore. I get it. Dante Moore was one of the best incoming freshman in his class. He's 6'3", 210 pounds, has a really good frame, former five-star quarterback, but he started multiple games as a true freshman for UCLA, and I just wasn't overly impressed with what I saw from Dante Moore. His accuracy was all over the place. Overthrows, underthrows, just really had no control over where the football was going to be going on any given play. I also thought that his processing and his ability to read defenses was pretty poor. He forced the ball into some really tight coverages, turned the ball over way too often. I want to say he had like a 3 or 4 game stretch there for UCLA where he threw a pick 6 in each of those games. He's got to clean that up. He has got to be better with the football. You got to take care of it. I also thought that his footwork, he was very flat-footed. He needed a little bit more refinement there. I didn't think he felt pressure very well. All of that was as a true freshman, and obviously he transferred out of UCLA, and I do want to give him the benefit of the doubt for that because that UCLA team was a mess. There was really no weapons to throw the ball to. And so for that, I'm going to give him a little bit of grace. But that doesn't really fix some of the issues that I did see with the processing, with the footwork, the pocket presence. I didn't think it was great, and that does concern me going into this year for Oregon. Now, that was all the negatives. He still had a bunch of positives that I think you got to feel really excited about if you are a Ducks fan. The arm talent's absurd. I think he has a way better arm than Bo Nix had, than Dylan Gabriel had. He just throws the ball with excellent zip. The ball just flies off his hand. He's got a really concise, quick throwing motion that I love. I think in the short to intermediate game, he could thrive. He's got the quick trigger to get rid of the football. And I also think the most exciting part about Dante Moore, we mentioned that Will Stein loves to bring in RPOs. Dante Moore is going to open up this offense in a completely new way that we haven't seen this Oregon team really tap into. They haven't really used a lot of designed quarterback run stuff. If I'm an Oregon fan, the threat of Dante Moore and Mekhi Hughes in my backfield excites me so much. Dante Moore showcased the wheels. He's got speed in the open field. He's shifty. He's big. That's all exciting. He's got the arm talent. He's got the quick release. If he can get a little bit better and, start to read defenses a little bit more, this is a guy that could be a first-round pick next year because all the traits are in there. But like I said, there are still negatives. So I have him as a 78 overall going into the year. This is ranking them at their floor. At the end of the year, I expect Dante Moore to be higher than this. I gave you guys all the reasons why I do think that, but I am a little hesitant because the last time we saw Dante Moore, things weren't exactly pretty for him at UCLA. So we'll see what ends up happening. I do believe that Dante Moore is a big-time breakout candidate this year and a guy that could definitely be in that Heisman race. Oregon's had a quarterback in the Heisman finalist each of the last 2 years, and I would not be shocked in the slightest if Dante Moore is in that conversation. If you look at the depth here, it's okay. It's not like I felt a lot better about Penn State's depth. I felt a lot better about Ohio State's depth. I think it's fine. You got Austin Novosad. He's done 13 passes through 2 seasons in his career. Former track and field guy, but I just didn't think he had a great arm. He's 6'3", 205. Well, I like the processing. I liked the ability to work across the middle and the short to intermediate game. I thought he was really quick and made good decisions. I just don't think he's got an elite arm, and I don't know how much of a factor he's going to be on this team. You got Luke Moga, 6'2", 200-pound redshirt freshman, a little bit undersized. His accuracy was all over the place in high school at around a 50% completion rate, which is not ideal, but similarly to Dante Moore, I think if there was a guy that I was betting on out of Novosad and Moga to get the QB2 spot, I think I like Moga a little bit better. I think he's just got a better arm. He's a really good athlete, can make plays with his legs, and the ball placement I thought was really good for him at times. Former 3-star in the 2024 class, but I do like him a little bit. And then you got Akili Smith, 6'5", 200 pounds, excellent frame, big-time arm, can connect at all 3 levels. I thought the pocket feel was good. He definitely sensed pressure pretty well. I just thought his throwing mechanics, footwork, he was just a little bit slow in terms of his processing and his ability to kind of get into his drop back stance. I would like to see that improve for him. Obviously, he is a true freshman, so not a guy that I expect to see the field, but I don't have those guys rated too highly. But yeah, this is Dante Moore's team now. They brought him in last year. He has been learning this offense, so he's got the arrow pointing up. I definitely think he is a breakout candidate this year. And if he's good this year, like I expect him to be, this Oregon team is going to be in a really, really good position to succeed. But moving on now, we're going to look at the running back room where they made one of the biggest moves of the offseason, bringing in Mekhi Hughes. Mekhi Hughes is an awesome running back that I tweeted about this a few days ago. If Mekhi Hughes has the type of season that I think he can have, he could be the best running back in next year's class. And yes, above Jeremiah Love, above Nick Singleton, I think he is a phenomenal runner of the football. 5'11", 210 pounds, really, really good frame for the running back position. He just is, his first step explosiveness is off the charts. He just explodes out of the backfield. He has some really good, after the catch plays that I thought were really good. He's explosive, he's quick, he's got a great frame for the position, but I love what he can do as a receiving option. If you want to use him as a receiver, he's got good hands, he can make plays after the catch. If you want to use him as a blocker, I think Mekhi Hughes is a very good blocking option for you. I think the issue that I had with him, I like what I saw with his vision. There were times where he would anticipate a hole being there. He had the jukes and the footwork to hit the cutback lanes, but I felt like it was a little few and far between in those instances. He's got to be more consistent at anticipating where the rushing lanes are going to be. He has to have better vision, because I did feel like there were a lot of times where, all right, the lane's not here, I'm just going to run straight and hope I can run by guys. That's not going to work, especially in the Big Ten. He's got to be more of a nuanced runner. He's got to see the field a little bit better. He did have some drop concerns. I didn't think his contact balance was as amazing as I wanted to see either. I thought he went down at first contact a little bit too often. Wanted to see him churn and fight for extra yards, but I still love this guy. And that is with vision being a little up and down, because I do think the plays where he shows good vision are some of the best running back tape you're going to watch of any prospect in the 2026 draft class. I think he's the best receiving back I have looked at thus far. And I really do think with his frame, he's going to be able to run guys over. You just got to see a little bit more. Last year was really his first chance to shine in that role. But moving up to Oregon, I expect a big-time breakout year for Mekhi Hughes. I'm a big fan of his game. I really do think he is an awesome player. I got him as an 88 rating. And then you got Noah Whittington, who's coming back for another year, has been with the team since 2022, 5'8", 200 pounds. Look, he's not this insane size, speed, receiving option. I thought he had solid vision. The contact balance is really good. For an undersized back, I thought Noah Whittington was really impressive, and that he just does fight for extra yards really, really well. The legs never stop moving. And in the open field, he's shifty. He's going to be able to make guys miss. And I think he's a really fun back. He's a great power back to Mekhi Hughes. If Mekhi Hughes is not able to continue to get better in the power elements of his game, I think Noah Whittington can be your short yardage back and, make an impact there. I think he is a late round draft pick if he does go to the NFL. I think he's probably a later round guy, a little bit older, not a great receiver, like I said, not very big, but definitely thought he showed some good stuff for Oregon. And then they've got a couple of these developmental running backs that they have, and Dewan Riggs and Jaden Lamar. Riggs is really interesting. He had 14 carries last year as a redshirt freshman, but he had 82 yards and a touchdown on those 14 carries. The vision is really impressive. The contact balance is phenomenal. He's 6 foot, 210 pounds. I didn't think he had this blazing open field speed, and the production is very limited, but I wouldn't be shocked if Riggs, with his power element that he brings, the size, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he is this team's running back 1 in 2026. You also got Jaden Lamar. He had 71 yards on 25 carries last year. Good vision and pretty shifty in the open field. Nice receiver, but not super fast. After contact, just really underwhelming, 2.08 yards after contact per attempt, which is not a very good number. And he's just not super fast. So, 5'11", 200 pounds, former track guy in high school, Notre Dame recruit. He's interesting, but I definitely think there's a three-man race in the running back room between Hughes, Riggs, and Whittington. I think those are your three backs that you're going to lean on heavily. And if Mekhi Hughes hits that ceiling, I think this could be one of the most dangerous run games in college football, especially when you factor in the threat of Dante Moore with his legs. I really like what Oregon has that they could potentially be building here for this season. But it all depends on this receiving room. I think this is the most important position group for Oregon this year. And we're going to start this conversation. We always start with, the top guy to the left. But I want to start with the Evan Stewart conversation. I did a quick TikTok about this. Go follow my TikTok. I'll leave that linked in the description below. Doing a lot of clips from these deep dives over there. I think the Evan Stewart loss is devastating for Oregon in 2025. Not only, first of all, just really sad for Evan Stewart. Obviously, a really highly sought after recruit, goes to Texas A&M, balls out as a true freshman, deals with some injuries as a sophomore last year. In and out of the lineup with more injuries. They missed the Rose Bowl because of an injury. Hasn't really been able to stay healthy, but this was really the year. Like, he's coming into this year, he is going to be the number one guy in this receiving room. And he gets hurt again, likely going to miss the whole year. It just really sucks for Evan Stewart, who came back trying to boost his draft stock because he didn't have the greatest year. He's such an enigma as a player because he's undersized. He doesn't really, he hasn't really had a ton of production, but the speed is phenomenal. I think he's a great route runner. He's got great hands. He gets open, just doesn't have the production that you want to see. And I think he was going to have a really big year for Oregon this year. I had the arrow pointing up on Evan Stewart. I thought he could have really broken out. And unfortunately, he's not going to be with this team this year. I thought that his element with his speed, he could be that vertical threat for this team. He can work both in the slot, which he was kind of blocked from a lot of slot snaps last year because Tez Johnson is this team's slot receiver, or was, I should say. He didn't really get the looks that I thought he should have gotten in the slot, which is where I think he was at his best. And now we just won't get to see that. So this team's going to have to pivot. And I think any combination of this receiving room is really in play. The only two guarantees, I think, on this receiving room are the two guys on the left. We're going to start with DeCorian Moore, because DeCorian Moore is going to be the guy that everyone is going to compare to Jeremiah Smith, the number one wide receiver recruit coming out of high school, big time player. And you know what? I don't even hate it, because I think DeCorian Moore is an unbelievable talent. A member of the 247's Freaks list, competed in track and field, competed in the long jump, was the number one wide receiver in the country, the number 9 overall player coming out of this high school class. I mean, I will just go through the list of pros that I have written down for DeCorian Moore. He's got blazing speed. This guy takes the top off the defense with ease. The ability to blow by defenders. I mean, this is a 4.3 speed guy, I think, with ease. I think he is incredibly athletic and has phenomenal open field speed. The quickness and the footwork are phenomenal. He's got really good route running ability. He just knows how to set defenders up. He knows how to make guys miss in the open field. He's really good in terms of his release package at the line of scrimmage. He can beat press coverage. He high points the football really well. I think he knows how to use his hands. He catches with his hands and not with his body. He goes up, gets the football. He's elusive after the catch. And I think my only negative that I had, obviously, high school highlights and tape, very limited to really get the full scope of things. You're not going to see every little play of every game, unlike some of these college guys that have been established. But with DeCorian Moore, he's listed at 5'11", 182, I believe. Let me pull up his exact measurements here. Yes, 5'11", 182. This guy is incredible as a contested catch option. My biggest complaint is his size, because I do think he's going to need to bulk up at the college level. But for a guy that is considered small, he plays big, he plays physical. He's going to be this team's number one guy this year. I think without question, he plays as a true freshman. The speed element, the ability to run routes, I don't know that anybody is going to be able to replicate what Jeremiah Smith did. But if anybody is going to be able to do it, it's going to be that guy right there. I think DeCorian Moore is an awesome player, and he's going to be the number one receiver on this Oregon team this year. I'm really excited. He's got the firework next to him, which is the true freshman breakout guy. And the other guy that I feel really confident that is going to play and be a big role for this team is Justice Lowe. Lowe is an interesting one. Started 5 games for Oregon in 2024. He wasn't super productive. Just 203 yards, 1 touchdown. Former 4-star recruit, but I don't really think he's going to be this vertical threat. I think he's not going to challenge defenders vertically. He's not a super twitchy route runner, doesn't create a ton of separation. But I do think he plays physical at the catch point. He's got really reliable hands, and he's a good blocking receiver. So I do think he'll see the field as a result because he plays physical. He's going to block, and I think he's a good Z. I think he's a good possession receiver. I think similarly to how we talked about Kyron Hudson for Penn State, I look at Justice Lowe very similarly. But other than that, we'll just go through this receiving room because I really do think any combination of these guys could see the field. The guy that I'm expecting to see the field the most here is actually Jurion Dickey. I've got the arrow pointing up on him because, look, he just has not really panned out the way that I think a lot of people were hoping. Played just 77 snaps for the Ducks in 2024, but he was a 5-star recruit in 2023, the number 2 receiver in his class. I mean, he's got all the traits that you could want. Freakish size, he's got long arms, really good release package off the line of scrimmage, excellent hands, knows how to win the 50-50 balls. I did think at times when breaking out of his routes, very heavy on his feet, was not the most fluid mover, but the lack of production doesn't really add up. Dickey should be one of the more productive guys, and we just haven't seen it. Now, granted, he was behind Troy Franklin and Trayshawn Holden and Tez Johnson and now Evan Stewart. He's kind of had a logjam of trying to work his way up the depth chart. This could finally be the year where Jurion Dickey steps up. I know I don't have him as the highest rated or even in a starting role, but I love his skill set. I think he's a guy that can challenge vertically. I think he can win 50-50 balls. He can kind of work the middle of the field. He's a guy that I have my eyes on. I got the arrow pointing up on Jurion Dickey. And then you got Gary Bryant, recovering from a lower leg injury. I don't really know what he's going to be looking like. He played a little bit in 2023 for Oregon. I watched him in the USC game, watched him in the Colorado game. He's undersized at 5'11", 180. Didn't feel like he was an amazing route runner. Didn't feel like he got open a ton. But he's a good gadget player, and he's got good explosiveness and speed for the position. We'll see how that leg injury ends up kind of playing into that athleticism for him. But he's got the red injury flag up next to him. We just don't really know what he is. And then I also like Malik Benson. I think any of these 3 guys could get in there. Malik Benson I've got as an 80 overall. He's an interesting one. A former number 1 JUCO prospect. This is his 3rd team in 3 years. Was at Alabama, then Florida State last year. Now he's at Oregon. He's got good size at 6'1", 195. His release package was decent. Good blocker, but man, he just didn't attack the football. He wanted the football to hit him in the chest. Did not go out and try and grab the football. His hands were really questionable at times. Wasn't a super nuanced route runner. I like the athletic traits. I like what I've seen. Hasn't been overly productive, but I like what I've seen from him over some of the other guys. That's why I have him higher rated than them. But then we go through kind of, a lot of depth pieces here. Jeremiah McClellan, a 4-star recruit last year. Ohio State wanted him, so that's a good sign. Excellent with the ball in his hands. Really good after the catch. Tracks the ball well in the air. I just didn't love his route tree coming out of high school. I thought his long speed was questionable, but definitely a guy that could see the field. I mean, he redshirted last year, has good traits. I'm interested in what he could do. Kyler Casper is a freak athlete. I mean, he's 6'6", 210 pounds. I've got my eyes on him. I wouldn't be shocked if he converts to tight end. He's not a great separator. He's not a great route runner. Hasn't been very productive, but the frame at 6'6", the speed, I thought some of the footwork was really intriguing, and he knows how to use his frame and win the 50-50 ball. So I have my eyes on Kyler Casper. I don't know that he'll play a lot, but definitely an interesting one. Then you got Dylan Gresham. Didn't play at all last year. Probably more of a special teamer. 6 foot 190. That's kind of where he was best in high school. Was a great punt returner. Shifty, has quick feet, tracks the ball well in the air. I think he's more quick than he is fast, and just still really trying to understand the nuances of route running and the receiver position. You got Cooper Perry as well, former lacrosse player at 6'1", 185. Again, more quick than he is fast, but I thought he was a good route runner, really shifty after the catch, and I like his frame to work inside and outside. So I like him as a true freshman. And then you got Jack Ressler, who, solid quickness, 5'11", 195 pounds. I don't think he's super dynamic as an athlete or after the catch. Not an awesome athlete with his size, but he's a good route runner and he knows how to get open. So you definitely like that. But overall, this receiving room, a lot of question marks. Who is going to step up as the number one guy? We expect it to be DeCorian Moore, but who's going to step up as number two? Is it going to be Justice Lowe, or is Jurion Dickey going to break out? Can Malik Benson be more consistent with his hands? Those are some of the questions that I think Oregon fans are going to be asking, and we're going to have to see. I do have my concerns about this receiving room, but I think the best weapon on this team right now is tight end Kenyon Sadiq. People were in my comments talking about how awesome Kenyon Sadiq was. I was like, all right, let me just take a look at the tape for myself and really break down what this guy does. You guys were right. Kenyon Sadiq is awesome. One of the most fun tight end evaluations I have ever made. And I think if he continues this progression, he'll be a first-round pick and the number one tight end in next year's draft class. We've talked about some awesome tight ends. Jack Indries at Texas. Max Clare at Ohio State. Kenyon Sadiq, I think, is... Right now, he's not better than those guys, but the ceiling is way higher with Sadiq than of either of those guys. And it starts because I think he's one of the best athletes I can recall at the tight end position. They used him kind of in the Brock Bowers role in terms of, we're going to get this guy on jet sweeps, we're going to give this guy bubble screens, we're just going to get Sadiq the ball, and he's going to make plays in space. He had a play in the Penn State game where he's hurdling defenders like... For a guy that's 6'3", 245 pounds, he should not be able to move like this. Like, athletically, I think his hands are fantastic. He shows the ability to make plays after the catch. He's got a really good frame. And oh yeah, he happens to be one of the most fantastic blocking tight ends I've looked at. He just lands a ridiculous amount of power with his punches. I mean, talk about a guy where the ceiling is sky high. He can block. He's really good after the catch. Really why I don't have him rated higher than those guys right now is the route running aspect of it all. Can he be a more nuanced route runner? Can he prove to stretch the field a little bit more vertically? I think he's going to be given the opportunity this year. We mentioned Oregon wants to play a lot of 12 personnel. I think they're going to use him more in that slot role. He's going to be the receiving option in this tight end room. And if he can do that, man, he's going to be a problem for opposing linebackers to deal with. But I also think they've got a perfect running mate next to him in Jamari Johnson. You bring him in from Louisville, and a guy that's got the phenomenal frame at 6'5", 265 pounds, and he lined up everywhere for the Louisville team. He's not necessarily the same level of athlete, but they used him at Louisville on screens. They tried to get him the ball in space. I thought he was explosive. The size and the length is phenomenal. But the reason I really like his fit here is I think in 12 personnel, you're really going to be able to use him as a blocker. He was a fantastic blocking tight end. I really liked that about his game. not very productive as a receiver, not a great route runner at this point in time. Redshirt sophomore, but a guy that comes in, you're going to run 12, you're going to have Sadiq as that receiving guy, and Jamari Johnson, who I think can play in line and really hold up as a blocking tight end. So I love his fit on this team. I think he's one of the more slept on tight ends and transfer additions in the country. You got Roger Salapaga there, played 194 total snaps last year before suffering an injury, mostly on special teams. But going back to his high school tape, I like his future development in this team as another receiving tight end. It didn't show much as a blocker, but he is a really good athlete with speed and the ability to stretch the seam vertically. He's got good hands, wins 50-50 balls really well. Again, still learning the tight end position. He played wide receiver in high school, so he wasn't asked to block at the same level. Definitely have my eyes on Salapaga there. And then AJ Pugliano as well. Didn't love his athleticism, but, a solid, reliable hands zone type of guy. I don't really expect him to play much, but yeah, this group of weapons is a lot to work with for a young quarterback. Dante Moore and DeCorian Moore could be one of the best wide receiver quarterback duos in the country. And I think you're going to be able to get a lot out of Kenyon Sadiq. So we'll see if they can get more from this receiving room. It is a question mark, but I do like what they are working with. But let's finish off the offense by talking about the offensive line, which I think we talked about it. Yes, you lost 3 starters last year. I would argue that this group is better, and it starts off with Isaiah World out of Nevada. Isaiah World, I'm just going to plant my flag now. Isaiah World will be a top 10 pick in next year's draft class. If he plays even remotely close to how he played at Nevada last year, Isaiah World will be a top 10 draft pick. I think he is an unbelievable offensive tackle prospect. And I mean, just the list of positives to talk about with him are ridiculous. He's got an incredible size and length at 6'8", 309 pounds, was a former 3-star recruit, but a guy that played left tackle, he played right tackle. I think he can work inside for you with his athleticism. I mean, people are going to talk about the competition level. That is one of the weaknesses that I have in his game, but he played really well against SMU, who they had an NFL edge rusher on that team, played really well against Minnesota, who they also had 2 NFL edge rushers on that team. He really held up against that competition. World is just an incredible athlete. I mean, a guy that moves well in space. They love to use him on different pulling formations. He made incredible blocks in space. He's an excellent run blocker. I mean, the ability to lead the rusher, just open up lanes. That's one of the reasons why I'm really high on this run game this year is I think not only, we'll talk about some of the other guys, but this group as an offensive line is really, really good at run blocking. And I think that's super exciting. But World has the best hand fighting I've seen in a tackle through this entire process. He is just stone with his hands. He redirects rushers with ease. He just knows how to win the leverage battles. He's got great length, and he uses that. Long arms defenders. My only critique, and the one area I want to see him get better at, can he improve his anchor? I thought his footwork when going up against more powerful bull rushes, it struggled at times. He was overpowered from time to time. If he can get better there, this guy is a franchise NFL tackle. I'm going to plant my flag on that. I think Isaiah World is an awesome, awesome player. Then you got Emmanuel Pregnon, another really, really good player, a transfer out of USC. A great story, unranked coming out of high school from Denver. And a guy that's 6'5", 320 pounds. I liked what I saw from him as a run blocker. Showed some good hand fighting. Got the size, got the power element in his game. He does block with a level of nastiness that I really, really like. His pass protection does need to get better, though. He got beat to his inside shoulder a little bit too often. And I thought he overset in pass protection, which led to him getting beat. Gonna need to see a little bit more consistency there. But I do like what he does bring. Balance is another thing. I thought he played a little bit out of control at times, but an interesting player nonetheless. Then you got Iapani Lalolu. We're just gonna go with that. Again, I do apologize if I butchered that name, but 6'2", 325 pounds, really good frame again. The hand placement and the ability to redirect rushers is really, really good. And I actually think he's a better pass blocker than he is a run blocker. I think he's the one exception on this team. He does get beat at times, over sets and at times, but I just love his hands, and I think he's got great footwork, great anchor in the passing game. The one area I want to see more consistency in, the run game, struggled to connect consistently, and then I also felt like he struggled to recognize blitzes at times. So would like to see that improve. And then you got Dave Yulee here. Played down the stretch for Oregon, was really, really impressive in the Penn State game. Needs to improve his body control and balance and be more consistent at making contact at the second level. But he brings pop with his hands. He's a phenomenal athlete that explodes into his stance, and he hits hard. He does have a hard-nosed, power-blocking mentality that I really like. So it's not here on the slides, but I definitely think the arrow is pointing up on Dave Yulee. And then you got Alex Harkey out of Texas State. Another phenomenal run blocker that has great size and length, 6'6", 305. And he just knows how to get in space. Another guy they like to use on pulls, and they like to use as a climber. And he made good plays at times. Does need to improve his play strength. I thought he was overpowered way too often, was pushed off his rocker. The anchor needs to get better, and I think his hand usage needs to get more consistent as well. But this offensive line, is a really good starting group. I really like some of the pieces they have. And if Isaiah World hits the potential, this could be a better offensive line than it was last year, which was a damn good offensive line. And I also really like the depth that they have here, which is another big reason I like this line. We'll start with the tackle depth here. Fox Crater, a former four-star recruit, redshirted last year. Light on his feet, good athlete, good quickness, raw technique though, and just felt like he disengaged too early. 6'6", 290, interesting name to watch. You got Zaire Addison, former wrestling background, which you love. I like his game at 6'5", 290. Got to get stronger, though, and I felt like he lunged way too often, but really good hands, does do well with the hand fighting, solid athlete he can run block really well. I think if World War II, God forbid, go down with an injury, Addison would probably be the starter for this team. Then you got Janoris Wilson, who is a backup right tackle. I think he's the best backup tackle on this team. Lets defenders work into his chest too often, but the length, the hand placement solid, the footwork and the movement skills are really good, and I think he can get up to the second level. He's got good blocking technique. I've got my eyes on him. I really liked his game. If Harkey doesn't improve the play strength, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a world where maybe Janoris Wilson is getting into the starting rotation. You got Trent Ferguson as well. I didn't love his hands. I thought he played a little bit out of control and was just not a great pass blocker, but he was a good run blocker, blocks with power, and he's a good athlete, 6'7", 320. And then you got Zach Staskowski here, number one recruit in the state of Oregon, initially committed to Washington, but he flipped his commitment. Really good athleticism and run blocker. Again, just felt like he lunged a little bit and needs to add on a little bit more strength. He's 6'6", 275. Moving on to the interior depth, you got Kawika Rogers, another guy that's just very limited production throughout his career, was a 3-star recruit in 2022. I thought his technique was pretty raw, but great frame at 6'5", 325, good polar, good power. Dimitri Manning, 6'6", 336 pounds, an elite frame for the position, has power, run blocks really well. But even with that elite frame, I think he's a little too heavy on his feet and just his body needs to take shape a little bit more. I think he's a little bit too big for the position right now. And again, has the tall offensive lineman problem where he lunges too often. They've got 3 backup centers on the roster here. I don't expect all these guys to be on the lineup. Charlie Pickard is the guy that will probably get the most experience. He's played with the Ducks since 2021. I didn't love his technique, but he's a solid mover and can displace people in the run game. started 2 games at center last year and played 141 snaps for the Ducks. You got Bryce Bolton there. Wanted to see him block with a little bit more power. 6'2", 300, a little bit undersized, but good hand placement, good anchor, excellent puller in the run game. And then you also have Douglas Utu, Devin Brooks. We'll get to Utu in a second. Devin Brooks, solid waist bend and athleticism, played both inside and outside in high school, has power, good footwork. Again, 6'4", 280, just needs to bulk up a little bit more to my liking. Douglas Utu flipped his commitment from Tennessee, just very raw in pass protection, I felt like. Good mover, plays aggressive, wants to drive guys into the ground, plays with a lot of power. Like, of the true freshman offensive linemen outside of Addison, I actually think that Utu might be their best guy. I really like his game. I think he's a good player. And then you've got Lipe Muwala here. He has the ideal size and frame that you look for, but very limited tape. A guy that just hasn't played much and just don't have a lot of exposure to him. There's just not a lot of tape out there of him, but he's got power in his game, which I do like. The one that does pain me a little bit is Matthew Bedford. If you guys are new to the channel, Matthew Bedford is a good friend of mine. We've talked a little bit in the past and had an interview with him. You guys can go check that one out. He's a really great person. And unfortunately, he's just kind of gotten buried. He's the number 2 right guard on the team. Maybe if Dave Yulee doesn't pan out, Bedford can play. I think he dealt with injuries. But a guy that's a good athlete, I think he's a great run blocker. He's got good footwork, good hand placement. Like, the traits are there, just doesn't really have the size or length that you look for. Not great in pass protection. And I just didn't think he was an awesome mover as a puller in the run game, but still a guy I'm rooting for. I hope he gets his chance, but unfortunately, I just don't know if it's going to happen here. His final year of college eligibility. So the offensive line's a really interesting one. They got depth that is young, but the development is there. But the starting 5 look like if that group can stay healthy, this could be one of the best, if not the best offensive lines in college football. I don't think that's too outlandish to say. I think they have, of all the teams we've talked about so far, I think Oregon has by far the most complete group of offensive linemen. And I think they have the best offensive line we've talked about. So that's going to do it for the offense. A lot of really exciting things to build on, but certainly some potential for this to go south if Dante Moore can't hit and if the receiving room doesn't hit as well. But let's move on to the defensive line here, where I like this group. I think a lot of, again, young players that are kind of coming into their own. But one guy that I think is the true star of this defense is Mateo Uiagalelei. Now, I saw Uiagalelei and I thought, oh no, is this just going to be a name thing? Am I going to have PTSD from just how horrible DJ was? And no, Mateo's a really good player. Like, he's a first-round caliber edge rusher to me. I've got him as a 92 rated. I think he's better. Like, we talked about Penn State and Dennis Sutton. I think Mateo is a little bit better. He's just a phenomenal run defender. Like, his ability to work inside offensive linemen, his inside pass rush moves to split linemen and shoot the gaps, really, really impressive. Like, there were multiple plays in the Ohio State game where he is just blowing plays up in the backfield because he's got such a high floor as a run defender. He reads it well at the line of scrimmage. He's an incredible athlete with just excellent length. The change of direction is good. The quickness and burst, it's there for him. And he's got the ability to shoot the gaps and make a play in the run game. So I love that about Uiagalelei right off the bat. I think he's one of the best run defenders at the edge position. And we talked about it. Oregon wants to bring a lot of unique pressure looks. They want to bring blitzes and stunts. And so when they used him off of stunts, Uiagalelei was fantastic. He led the Big Ten in sacks in 2024. Really fun player. Can he take that next step, though, as a pass rusher? He's great off stunts. He's got great bend. Can he develop a counter move? That's really my one issue with Mateo, because I felt like if the bull rush didn't work or he wasn't able to work inside, he didn't really have a counter. Like, I didn't see a spin. I didn't see a swim move in there. I didn't see a nice up and over. If he can develop like an outside counter move, Mateo Uiagalelei is one of the best edge rushers in the country, and I still think he has another level that he could get to. So really liked what I saw from him, was pleasantly surprised, and definitely a name to keep an eye on. I think he is the best player on this defensive line. You got Amari Washington, though, who, look, I think is an interesting one. He's 6'3", 320 pounds. He's going to fill into that Jamari Caldwell role at nose tackle. Short arms for the position. I just didn't think the length was there. He struggled to gain leverage as a result of that. But a guy that, even with the shorter arms, the explosiveness is there. Like, you see the traits where he could develop into being a really good nose tackle. He's got the size. I think he's a good run defender. He plugs gaps really well. Gets into the backfield. He plays with active hands. I love that about defensive linemen. He is trying to set defenders up. He's trying to win with different swipes, and, you know, he has different counters that he can go to. He just struggled because of the shorter arms to consistently get off of blocks, and I that does worry me a little bit. The body control, not amazing, was out of control a little bit, but I have the arrow pointing up on Amari Washington. I do love his game. I think he could be a really nice player for the Oregon defense this year. And then you got Bear Alexander. We talked about it in the intro. One of the more controversial decisions in college football over the last couple of years. Look, all the antics aside, if you guys aren't familiar, he decided to redshirt the second half of the season for USC. They started to, I believe it was right after the Michigan game. He was like, yep, I'm done, and kind of left the team. That left a bad taste in a lot of fans' mouths, including myself. But like, as a pure football player, Bear Alexander is certainly an interesting one. Like, he has the athleticism. He is a really good athlete. He's quick off the line of scrimmage. He's got good speed. Like, he can track rushers down. He can get into the backfield. He's a really disciplined run defender. He understands how to leverage himself. He's got good hands. He showed a good bull rush from time to time. But I really felt like balance, he was pushed off way too often because I didn't think he had good play strength. Too many instances, he ends up on the ground, was pushed back, struggles to anchor, and he just doesn't really have a lot of like go-to moves as a pass rusher. He's going to be playing this 3-tech, this pass rush position, and I just don't think he has a lot of great pass rushing traits right now. I really don't. So I have him as an 84. There's definitely room for him to get better if he decides to go through with a whole season. But this has kind of been an issue with him. Going back at Georgia, he left Georgia after 1 year, and then he went to USC, hit the portal in the summer, decided to come back, hit the portal again in the fall. Just the loyalty aspect of it does worry me a little bit if I'm an Oregon fan, and I don't want to ever question someone's character, but I don't love that about Bear Alexander. And then you got Tatum Tuioti. Again, I do apologize if I butchered the name, but an interesting player. 6'3", 255. They've got him listed as their jack role, and is a really unique player because he's so versatile. I mean, they played him inside, they played him edge, they played him as like a pseudo linebacker at times even, and I thought that's where he showed some of the best upside, was when they used him as a stuntman or as like a free release guy. I mean, he is a good like pass rusher in one-on-one situations. Doesn't have a ton of counters, and that's not part of his game. Not a great athlete either, but the bend is really good for him. He gets around offensive linemen. He makes plays as a run defender. And I do think that he's got solid, ability to play all over your defense. He's not, like I said, he's not the strongest, he's not the fastest, and he's not the biggest guy in the world. And he doesn't have much of a plan as a pass rusher. It's why he's rated so low. But I do like his versatility for this defense, and I think they're going to be able to utilize him in a bunch of different ways. In terms of depth for the edge rusher position, Elijah Rushing is the guy that I have my eyes on. I think he's phenomenal. Hasn't played a snap, redshirted last year, but this is the guy to keep your eyes on. the number 3 edge in the 2024 class, the number 1 player from the state of Arizona. I don't know if I had to guess without doing any research. You guys can correct me on this. Rushing, I want to say, was probably behind Dylan Stewart and Colin Simmons, who were 2 of the best players in college football last year. But he's 6'6", 255 pounds, excellent burst off the line of scrimmage, elite bend. He's got a great up and under move. He uses his hands well as a pass rusher, and he's got a relentless motor. I mean, this guy's motor does not turn off. He's constantly fighting to get into the backfield and make plays. His body control, not all the way there yet. He's still kind of growing and trying to learn the limitations that he has, but I got the arrow pointing way up on Elijah Rushing. I think he's phenomenal. And then you got Zadavian Sims, 6'3", 300 pounds, inside, outside versatility. They love to use these big edge rushers. You saw it with Jordan Birch, and that's kind of the way they like to go about it. He's raw. His technique is not all the way there. Struggles to disengage. His hands aren't amazing, but he's got good size, good burst and power, so maybe could be an impact player for them. They got Matthew Johnson, the true freshman. Still, again, raw in terms of his hand usage, but a good athlete, high floor run defender, can play inside and outside at 6'5", 265, and he's a hard hitter with a lot of power in his game, so I'm interested to see what he can be. Then you got Ashton Porter, another guy that redshirted last year. He's a bit of a tweener for me. 6'3", 275. He's got good size, but I don't know if he's an inside guy. I don't know if he's an edge. But he brings pop with his hands. He's got good length, can defend the run pretty well. Didn't see a lot of the pass rusher. Then you got Blake Purchase, the number 1 recruit from Colorado in 2023. Plays high. His bend and change of direction aren't amazing, but he can win with both speed and power. He's got a good run defense upside, and I like his size at 6'3", 260. And then Nasir Wyatt, another true freshman. He's undersized. He's the complete opposite, where you got these super-sized edge rushers at Oregon. He's not. He's 6'2", 220. He's got to get bigger, but man, he's just a flamethrower off the edge. Excellent speed. The spin move was filthy. He can win just strictly off his athleticism. Definitely a name to kind of keep your eye out on for the future. I don't know if he'll see the field a lot this year, but I do think Nasir Wyatt could be a long-term potential edge rusher for this team as he continues to grow into his body. But this Oregon edge room is interesting. Obviously, you've got your number 1 in Uiagalelei, and you've got a lot of potential number 2s. Can Tuioti take the next step? Can Rushing be that superstar like the other guys in his recruiting class? We'll see. On the interior, a lot of unprovenness again. You got Tion Gray, flipped his commitment from Missouri. Didn't play last year as a redshirt. Interesting size at 6'6", 330. Natural power, plays low, plugs gaps in the run game. Just needs to kind of grow into his frame a little bit more consistency in terms of his pad level. I'd like to see, got him at a 74 at this point. Then you got Aiden Breland, who I do have the arrow up on. Redshirt freshman, a 4-star recruit last year, but great athlete. I mean, great hands. He knows how to get off of blocks, can play inside and outside. Just really good burst. Was on the 247's freaks list. He's 6'5", 295. Inconsistent on a down-to-down basis, but arrows up on him. I wouldn't be surprised if he overtakes Bear Alexander by the end of this year, if I'm being completely honest with you. Terrence Green, got the eyes on him as well. He's moving from like an edge rusher to like a nose. Played inside and outside. He's a good run defender. Solid pass rusher. Needs to develop more of a move set, but still explosive. Could be an interesting player. And then Jericho Johnson as well. 6'4", 340. I mean, the size is ridiculous. He's got great short area quickness. And he's a good space eater, but probably could improve his body a little bit more. The interior defensive line is the one area of this team where I actually think could come back to hurt Oregon this year. Because I don't really love, it's a lot of unprovenness right now. Is anyone going to step up in this room? You lost Harmon. You didn't really bring anyone in other than Bear Alexander, who brings his own set of question marks. So we'll see if this interior defensive line group is able to take that next step. Ultimately, I expect with this coaching staff it to be good. We know they're going to help out this interior a little bit. So I have this group, I think they're a solid group overall. Nothing elite, but not terrible either. The linebackers, I do like the linebacker room here in Oregon. They love to bring these guys as blitzers, and they love to utilize these guys in a bunch of different ways. Bryce Boettcher is a really fun linebacker, and I'm really excited to see what he can do as the number one guy, because he had a mini breakout year for Oregon last year. Dual sport athlete, was selected by the Houston Astros in the MLB draft, but decided to not go to the MLB and stick around and pursue football. He's 6'2", 225. I think his size is going to potentially come back to hurt him, but the athleticism, the ability to change direction, really, really borderline elite, to be honest. I think his hips are phenomenal. He can trigger really quickly downhill. He's a good blitzing threat. He hits hard. I think he's good in coverage. I think he's got good range. I think his eyes see the field well, and he's a great athlete. He's going to need to improve his play strength, getting off of blocks consistently, I thought was an area, and he's got to be a better tackler and run defender. He overextended in the run game way too often. That's got to get better for Boettcher, but definitely a guy that could be one of the breakout stars of college football as the number one here. Then you got Devin Jackson, another, he saw rotational snaps. They love to use him as a blitz role, and I think that's where he's at his best. He's a good run defender. His instincts were overall decent, but man, his coverage skills were really, really underwhelming. And a guy that I felt like was just lost in coverage, was beat way too often. That could potentially come back to hurt this Oregon team. They've got some interesting depth pieces. You got Jerry Mixon, who I've got the arrow pointing up on, played 107 snaps. Good special teamer, but I think with his athleticism and his coverage feel, he could see the field in that, middle linebacker role. He's not the most fluid athlete or change of direction, but he's got good sideline to sideline range, understands the run keys well, and he hits hard. So I really like Jerry Mixon. I think he's one of the better linebackers on this roster. Braden Platt as well, I have the eyes on, because I think he is a good blitz threat as well. Has the athleticism, has the tackling ability. He takes great angles to the ball carrier. Former number one recruit from the state of Washington. Still learning the ins and outs of the linebacker position. What can he be in coverage is kind of a question mark, but I do like him. And then you got, Dylan Williams, solid athlete, but I didn't like his change of direction. I thought he was more of an arms tackler. He's 6'2", 220. You got Gavin Nix, decommitted from Miami, but came to Oregon. Great run defender, great athlete, gets off of blocks well. Needs to grow into his frame a little bit more, I think, and I just don't think he's a great coverage guy. And then Kamar Mathudi as well, another guy that I think he's been a solid special teamer, just not great in one-on-one coverage, and just needs to grow a little bit more in terms of experience. He's good in space as a weak side linebacker. That's where I think he's probably at his best. But yeah, this linebacker group, I don't think it's anything that's going to blow you away. It's good. It's a serviceable group. Can Devin Jackson not be bad in coverage is really my question mark. But if he can be more consistent, then great. I think you're in a good spot as this Oregon team, and your front seven feel pretty good. But let's wrap this up let's wrap up the defense by looking at the secondary, which is a completely new look. 3 transfers that are starting, 2 new starters as well. We'll just start left to right here. You got Ife Obidegwu, an interesting player. I got the arrow pointing up on him. He didn't play last year as a redshirt guy. I think he's a good fit for this team. They want to play press. They want to play man coverage. Well, that's what he does. He's got great speed. He's sticky. I like what he did in zone. I thought he was had good instincts. He's a good run defender. He's a good tackler in space. He's 6'1", 195. He's got a great frame for the boundary. Yeah, I think he's got the arrow pointing up. I think he's going to be a good player for this team. Obviously, we're ranking him at his floor, but I definitely think he could be one of the better corners on this roster by the end of the year. I think he's a good football player and a guy that's going to impact this team in more ways than one. Then you got Kingston Lopa, another guy who only played 24 snaps last year. Just a monster in terms of his size, though. 6'5", 198 pounds. The size and length are ridiculous. He hits really hard. He's a good run defender, good athlete. The ball skills are really impressive. He's got good eyes in zone. Played both wide receiver and safety in high school, posting 750 yards as a wide receiver. I think he hits hard, but he just doesn't have great technique right now, and he's going to have to get a little bit stronger. I thought play strength was certainly an issue for him at times, but I think the big addition of this team and why I feel good about this secondary and ultimately why I think it's going to be better is the addition of Dylan Thieneman. Dylan Thieneman was a guy that I thought I looked at last year, made the mistake thinking that he might be draft eligible, and I wish I would have kept my notes on him from last year. I ultimately didn't. Dylan Thieneman is a awesome safety. He's not Caleb Downs, because who is, right? But Dylan Thieneman is one of the best safeties I've watched because he just does everything. I mean, if you want a guy that can drop into coverage, he's really good. He's got great feel over the top. He can kind of man guys in the box. If you want a run defender, I mean, this guy's had over 100 tackles in each of the last 2 seasons. He's been incredibly productive for the Purdue defense in terms of defending the run, in terms of coming downhill as a tackler. I think he's been really good in that phase. You got a guy that's an elite athlete. Like, I don't think on tape he plays this fast, but he's rumored to run on the 4.3s. He can play anywhere on the defensive side of the ball. He's got sideline to sideline range. His pre-snap recognition and knowing where to go before the ball is snapped is just really impressive. He's super smart as a football player. I know his tackling technique was up and down, and I did think his change of direction was slightly underwhelming. Those are the 2 notes that I have. If Dylan Thieneman repeats what he has done the last 2 years, great. But if he can do what he did as a true freshman, this is a guy that's a top 10 player in next year's draft. I thought Purdue really used him out of position the last couple of years, and he's a guy that can play in the box because he's such a good tackler, and he can be that roaming free safety. Dylan Thieneman, awesome player, one of the best safeties in the country for a reason, and a big-time addition for this Oregon defense. And then you also brought in Theron Johnson, a really good corner out of Northwestern. I don't know. I'm going to be very curious to see how he fits on this team. He's a good run defender. He's got great ball skills. I thought the footwork, the back pedal, the fluid hips, like I thought he moved really well for the cornerback position. He has good instincts. He had, I want to say, like 11 pass deflections this past year for the Wildcats. But he played a lot of off coverage, zone, didn't show a lot in press. I wanted to see more physicality from him, and it just wasn't there. I didn't think he was a very good tackler. Despite showing a willingness to defend the run, I thought he had bad technique, and he was very flat-footed at times. And, he got beat to the sideline from time to time as a result. But I got an 84 rating on him. I think he's a really good player and a guy that definitely should be being talked about a little bit more. And then you got Jaden Kennedy as well from Ole Miss. He's 5'10", 175 pounds. Not an awesome tackler. He's going to be playing in the nickel, so that could potentially be devastating. But the fluid athleticism and the change of direction and the ball skills, they're there for him. Just not a great tackler, and he's got to get bigger. I do want to talk about Dalen Austin. I've got him at a 73. I just don't know what's going to happen with him. He's listed as the starter on our lads. There's a chance he might not be on this team. He's dealing with an alleged hit-and-run situation that, unfortunately, prayers to the family, killed a 46-year-old man. His future with the program's up in the air, but he's a guy that, he's physical, he tackles well, So ideally at 6'1", 200, that could be a great nickel. I just don't know that he will be on this team. So I got the red flag. It's not a medical red flag. It's a off the field concern. But I do like some of the depth in this cornerback room. Jaleel Florence, he comes back. Didn't play a lot in 2024. He's an interesting one. He got caught staring too often, was beat deep regularly because he's not very fast, but he's got good movement abilities. He's got fluid hips. He can play well in press. He doesn't bite on double moves. He's physical. And I think he's a good tackler. I wouldn't be surprised if he's playing in the nickel. I think that's where Florence is probably going to be at his best, is in the nickel. You bring in Naeem Offord, the number 1 player from Alabama, the number 3 corner in the country. Fun fact here, half-brother of Mekhi Hughes, so that's pretty fun. He's just got excellent size and length, 6'1", 185. I think he's a scheme versatile defender where you can play him in off, you can play him in press, you can play him in zone, where his instincts were really impressive, his closing speed is phenomenal, and his ball skills are really good. I think he can also tackle well and defend the run. Can play inside and out. Wouldn't be surprised if he sees the field. He's got the firework next to him as that true freshman breakout. You also have Sion Lalea, 4-star JUCO prospect in the 2024 class. Needs to improve his play strength, but great size, great length, nice long speed, and he's sticky in coverage. I like his frame as well at 6'4", 190. A guy that I think could definitely be an impactful player for this team. Then they have Dakota Fields, decommitted from USC, ran track in high school. I just worry he's dealt with injuries. He can be a little bit grabby, but I love his press technique. Does a great job of jamming guys at the line of scrimmage. Good athleticism, good speed, and very sticky in coverage. Brandon Finney, as well, another number 1 recruit from Maryland, which, by the way, does Oregon have a weird connect with Maryland? They have a few top recruits from Maryland that I have studied. Just something I noticed, but I like him as a true freshman as well. Solid tackler, closing speed is good. The change of direction, it's there. He moves well. He's 6'2", 185. Can be a little grabby. That's my big concern with him, but another guy, another one of these freshmen that I think can be an impactful player. You got Solomon Davis, former Arizona corner, needs a little bit more refinement in coverage, but he's got speed and he's got ball skills, so he could be interesting. And then Dorian Brew is the other true freshman. I didn't think his long speed was great, but he's a good tackler, good in press, and he's got fluid hips. So that's going to do it for the cornerback room. In terms of safety depth, you got Peyton Woodyard, who's been with Oregon for a few years, played mostly in special teams last year. A smart, high IQ football player that hits hard and brings physicality. That's kind of the name of the game. He is a box safety to me when he sees the field. Not a great athlete, doesn't have sideline-to-sideline range. They have Trey McNutt, who is a true freshman, the number 4 safety in the country. Excellent speed, change of directions, phenomenal. A guy that can, I think, is best utilized as a roaming free safety, but I think he's got a good willingness to defend the run. While the tackling technique is not that great as of now, I think there's room for him to grow. He's 6 foot, 180 pounds. I think he could definitely grow into his role a little bit more. And then finally, we've got Aaron Flowers, who I've got my eyes on. Played 13 snaps last year, but great change of direction, great instincts, solid overall ball skills, and a good run defender with the ability to play one-on-one. He's 6 foot, 200. Wanted to see him hit with a little bit more power, and I didn't think his top speed was all that great, but you can certainly see a world where this group is going to be better in terms of secondary play than it was just last year. You've got all this young talent, whether it be guys that redshirted last year or whether it be some of the true freshmen that are coming up that could be really big impacts. I think Darren Johnson is going to be a name to watch. I think he's in for a breakout year at Oregon with the national spotlight covering him. And then Dylan Thieneman, maybe the best safety, not named Caleb Downs in college football. There's a lot to really, really like about this Oregon secondary. It's young, it's athletic, it's fast, it's physical. I think this is the group that Dan Lanning is super excited about. I think it could be one of the biggest saving graces of this Oregon team as we take a look at the final slide here, kind of taking a look at this team. Now, there are some concerns. They are 95th in returning production. They're not bringing back a lot of guys, a lot of new faces, but a lot of excitement with a lot of those guys, whether it be the receivers or the secondary or even the D-line. I think there's some excitement there. They are fourth, however, in their recruiting class. I think they did another incredible job of landing one of the top recruiting classes in college football. In terms of the strengths of this team, I think the running game is going to be a big factor of this team. Whether it be the run blocking up front, whether it be Mekhi Hughes and Noah Whittington, whether it be the threat of Dante Moore with his legs, I think Oregon is going to run the piss out of the football, and they're going to be effective. They've got the blocking, they've got the infrastructure. This team's going to be a really good running team because I do think they're running behind one of the best offensive lines in college football. Isaiah World, I think, could be an all-American type offensive lineman. And I really like what he could bring to the table. I really like the interior with Emmanuel Pregnon. And, I think that the other guards and centers, I'm not going to butcher the names again, but we all know who I'm talking about, had the opportunity to be really good players for this team. In terms of another strength, I love the secondary. I think, like I said, they're young, but they're fast and they're physical. And I really like that about this team. In terms of weaknesses, it's not even that they're weak, it's just question marks. The quarterback room. Is Dante Moore going to take that next step in his progression? Is he going to be good enough? Because if he can hit that ceiling, I think you feel really good about this team. The D-line is the area that I have the biggest question marks with. Do you get enough from that interior? Is Bear Alexander going to play the whole year, or is he going to quit on the team again? And then wide receiver-wise, losing Evan Stewart was a heartbreaker, but do you have enough guys there? I think they do. And when we take a look at the schedule, talk about the first 4 weeks of the year being cupcake games. Montana State, Oklahoma State, at Northwestern, which is not even a road game for you, and then versus Oregon State. Oregon State always plays them tight, so I'm not going to say it's a cupcake game, but Oregon State is not in a great spot. But it's the next 2 games that I think really make or break the schedule for Oregon. Got to go at Penn State. Could be a whiteout game. That's going to be a really tough one. Penn State, we talked about them. They were my number 3 team. So really tough opponent on the road against a really good defense, a rematch of the Big Ten Championship, and then you got to bye, and you're versus Indiana. Indiana's coming to you in Eugene, but look, Indiana's really high on my list. I think Indiana's going to be good yet again. But other than that, I feel pretty good about the schedule. At Rutgers versus Wisconsin, I think both those should be wins. At Iowa, well, I think Iowa's going to be good. I think Oregon can get that win. Versus Minnesota is the trap game, I think, for this team, though. Minnesota's sneaky late in the season as a Friday night game. That could be a trap game for Oregon. Then you got USC November 22nd, and then at Washington. National title, they are plus 800. To win the Big Ten, they are plus 350, and their over-under is 10.5. So you're expecting them to lose one game pretty much if they're going to hit that over. I think I would take the over for this team. I think if I had to bet, they will beat Indiana. They will beat Minnesota. I think there is a world where this team can go undefeated in the regular season again. I really do. I think the schedule's favorable. And if this team can continue to build on what has been a really productive first few years, I think Oregon is going to be right back in the Big Ten title game. So Oregon comes in at number 5 in my college football deep dive series. Love to hear from you guys. Who do you guys think should be next in this series? Leave a like on this video. It helps get this video out to more Oregon fans just like yourself. Comment down below who you think will be next, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.